This episode is about minutes 91 through 95 of The Rise of Skywalker with returning guest Jeremy Sawruk. Hello there, and welcome to Star Wars Music Minute, where we celebrate the music and sound of Star Wars 5 cinematic minutes at a time. I'm Chrysanthi Tan, feel free to call me Xanthi, and today is all about minutes 91 through 95 of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. In this excerpt of the film, we start out with Poe and Finn calling each other General, and then we quickly head over to Octo, where we spend the rest of the minutes with Rey and Luke. Luke stops Rey from burning her lightsaber and raises his old X-Wing for her to fly to Exegol. I'm excited to have you back, Jeremy. This is your 4th time. Jeremy Sawruk is a composer and a technology person. And yeah, welcome back.
All right, thank you. Great to be here.
The set of minutes that you have includes, like the famous, the famous Yoda raises the X-Wing moment from Empire Strikes Back. So in a way, we're like, in the Empire Strikes Back season, you didn't get the minutes with that cue. So it's like, for me, it's like a second chance to talk about that part of the music. So that's exciting. Do you have overall thoughts about the music in these minutes, or shall we just start diving in?
I think overall, there are these callbacks to earlier in Star Wars. So we have some themes return that we've heard, especially in the original trilogy. Like you said, we're returning to that minute that was in The Empire Strikes Back, is very similar to this minute in here. But yeah, other than that, I think we can dive right in. Those are my first thoughts on these minutes. Is just having those moments that you can grasp onto of these returning themes that I think work relatively well in this scene. Yeah.
Agreed. It was definitely something for me to hold on to in the theater. Like one bit of music that got me very excited. Okay, so I'll start playing from the minutes.
I can't do this alone. I need you in command with me.
But this droid has... Thank you. I appreciate that. General. This droid has a ton of information about Exegol.
Wait, what? Coneface?
I am Dio.
Sorry, Dio. He was going to Exegol with Ochi of Bestoon.
Why was Ochi going there?
To bring a little girl he was supposed to take from Jakku to the Emperor. He wanted her alive.
Okay, already in that first 23 seconds, we have a couple themes. Also, I just want to note the way that they're able to, I feel like they have, at least Finn has good deductive reasoning, and I feel like, I don't know that I would have been like, so what? But it seems like he really got immediately what Poe was hinting at. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So the music that we get right when these minutes starts is Poe's theme.
Okay.
I feel like it's not a very standout theme. That's just my opinion. And it is also...
I didn't even know that had a name until you just told me that.
Yeah. I'll put it up on screen. Let's see. Yeah. Stalwart leitmotif for Poe Dameron, moderately frequent in all 3 sequel movies. Melodically somewhat unassuming, but charged with stirring orchestrations and interesting variable harmonizations. Has at least one big hero variant per film, and in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, more reflective, mature variants as well. So. Oops, I can't read it. Anyway, it's what we get at the beginning. This thing.
Something. I can't do this alone. I need you in command with me.
But this droid has... Thank you. I appreciate that. General. This droid has a ton of information about Exegol.
Wait, what? Coneface?
I am Dio.
Sorry, Dio. He was going to Exegol with Ochi of Bestoon.
Why was Ochi going there?
And then right into March of the Resistance. Da, 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 da.
Bring the little girl he was supposed to take from Jakku to the Emperor. He wanted her alive.
Yeah. Do you have any additional thoughts about that?
Well, I think when the March of Resistance theme comes in there, da 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 da, It in that scene seems to add a little bit of like mystery, in the orchestration. And then the other thing I want to point out there is right at the end of the scene, wanted her alive. You have this descending ba da 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 in the low strings.
Oh, do you mean like the trill thingy?
No, there's just this descending bass line da 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 right before the harp comes in. So if you go back to
Yeah, so Jeremy has like it's a little, what you explain what this is, what we're looking at on screen.
I just did a very simple piano reduction of the scene to try like take notes for what was playing, what motifs when. So
yeah. So are you talking about this part that I'm circling?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So all right, let's listen for that.
So what you going there?
To bring a little girl he was supposed to take from Jakku to the Emperor. He wanted her alive.
Yeah, right there. So like the impending, something is just going to happen. He wanted her like dun 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 dun.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and then I think it is a nice contrast with the scene transition. So here we have a descending, and then we have an ascending line in the strings. So it's almost like they're, I don't know, one's going one way and the other is going the other way. And that little bit of, is that right? Which we hear in the strings is, for me, it sounds reminiscent of like octo music. It's almost reminiscent of the Luke in Exile arpeggios, which are like, which is also reminiscent of the Attack of the Clones mystery arpeggios. I don't know. I just feel like the music on octo, especially in The Last Jedi, is very sweeping. Lots of soaring strings. And yeah, this feels in line with that. I'll put an image up on screen to show what's happening here, which is, Rey. Okay, so establishing shot of octo, and then Rey is hurling things into a fire, and it's a very. I think this is a pretty stunning shot, personally, of her looking at this.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
Yeah. It really stands out too. Like when I look at the screenshots I have from this set of minutes, like the ones with the fire, just, they look really good.
Well, it's that visual contrast because everything else is so gray and blue and all that. So it's a good, you really are drawn to that. So.
Okay, I'll keep playing. Kind of sounds like adagio for strings there. Okay, Rey's getting ready to throw the lightsaber into the fire. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Yeah, what do you think of that?
So there's a couple of things here. It's a good way to build tension. If we go back a little bit where we first see her at the fire, we have this line. It's like ba da 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 da. The intervals keep getting a little smaller, right? And then as we go beyond that, the intervals start going bigger. And it's just like you have this expansion out. So it's interesting how the musical focus, it's like when the intervals contract, you're getting a little bit more of like resignation. And you can see like some additional, as they're expanding, more energy or anger or whatever coming out of that. So I thought that was an interesting way to score this.
That's a good observation.
So this track...
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'll play from the beginning of Destiny of a Jedi from the from the soundtrack so we can hear it without the sound effects and everything.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is I think this
great.
was called something. So yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Destiny of a Jedi. So here we go. Can you point out which intervals you're talking about that are expanding? I do note that the Rey's theme sounds very conflicted. Like it's definitely a turbulent version of it here.
Right. It's definitely the the strings, like the middle strings. Da 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 da. They're rising, but I also feel like there's some. Maybe it's just that sequence of you have that motif and it's just going up is what I'm hearing. So, you have the da-da-da. Could you play that on the piano?
Yeah. Let's see. Starting from, like...
What I have is measure 26. Yeah, that 4/4 bar.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That?
Yeah, and then keep going.
So, okay, so it's... And then it's...
Yep. So it's just that 3-note cell keeps going up. Da 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 da. So it's E flat, F, A flat.
Yep.
So that by moving that up. Yep.
Yeah. There's the upward movement for sure.
Exactly.
And then it's... Yeah, okay, let's hear that again. And we also have the octave doubling, so it's even a bigger range. And then... Okay, we're ahead of ourselves. It's,
yes.
Luke. Cool. All right, let's continue playing from directly the minutes.
About something. I can't.
Okay, I think those 4 chords sound very Barbara Adagio for strings. They sound very mournful, almost like the immolation scene as well.
Yeah. It's extremely dramatic, and the tempo there slows way down. It is a lot slower because you're going da 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 da. It's a lot more majestic in a way.
Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
Master Skywalker.
What are you doing?
I saw myself on the Dark Throne.
So we can hear that the POV has changed, like the setting has changed.
Yes.
Yeah, so Luke walking through the fire. Well, first, here I'll put a screenshot up of the catch. And then he's walking through the fire. It looks like Jesus at a heavy metal concert.
No, I do want to go back because when he catches the lightsaber, that's exactly where the music drops out.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear
so
that.
If you go back and watch that, yeah.
Yep. And now he's walking.
Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
Master Skywalker.
What are you doing?
The winds after the height of the dramatic part of the Force theme sound like they're dissipating tension almost to me. What do you think? I just, while you're here, I might as well ask.
Okay.
What do you think of the "a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect" line?
Ooh, that line in general. I think overarching, I think that works. It makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, I can understand why Rey is frustrated and discarding it. You know, I would tend to agree with that line overall.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Do you think it makes sense in the context of this movie after The Last Jedi?
in what way?
So I don't mean to be leading you to a particular answer. But I'll just say that a lot of people have a problem with this line. I don't, but a lot of people do have a problem with this line because they see it as J.J. Abrams taking a dig at Rian Johnson. I don't know, because Luke was in this position last movie, and now suddenly he's like a Jedi's weapon. Like, I guess people will sort of, I don't know, believe a story that J.J. Abrams didn't like what Rian Johnson did with Luke's character and is kind of poking fun at it or commenting on it somewhat. I don't know if that's true, but I think the line also makes sense, and I don't really think it's a dig at Rian Johnson.
I don't think so either. I don't think there's any real metatextual reading to be had here. I think it's very in character of something that Luke would say, whether that would be something that goes against how Luke was portrayed in the previous movie, maybe. You know, I don't get that deep into the weeds to really have much of an opinion. I try to look at these movies as like individual things to experience on their own.
Okay.
You know, and I'm not really that into any behind the scenes drama.
Fair enough. I do think that him saying this does show a different side of Luke than we get throughout the first half of The Last Jedi. But I think in The Last Jedi, he goes through his arc and comes out at the end being more in touch and feeling at peace with his being a Jedi. So I feel like in the Last Jedi, it actually is resolved. And so it does make sense here.
I would agree with that assessment. I think that Luke's character does have a very strong arc in The Last Jedi, exactly what you said, where he's starting very conflicted and he is much more resolved by the end, you know.
Okay, we'll continue listening now.
I saw myself on the Dark Throne. I won't let it happen. I'm never leaving this place. I'm doing what you did.
I was wrong. It was fear that kept me here. What are you most afraid of?
Myself.
Because you're a Palpatine. Leia knew it.
Low strings.
She didn't tell me.
Okay, we'll stop there for a second. This is a funny conversation to me.
Okay.
I guess it's not funny. It just is. It is a very classic like mentor conversation with a mentor, I guess. Like Rey is going through the thing that she's going through and is sort of like pointing out that Luke did something like this. Like, I'm just going to do what you did. Right. And he's having to admit that he was wrong about that. I just think that is funny because there is like a certain naivety in it. Like, I'm just going to do what you did, and that will be fine. Like, I'm just going to give up because, you know, but he gets to the heart of it. Like, she's afraid of herself. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's interesting that in that particular exchange, there's absolutely no music. And I think it's the only time in this series of minutes where there's no music. And I think part of it is to, make sure that you hear all the dialogue, for one, because there is some important dialogue there. But it also, like, it feels... I don't know what exactly the right word is for that. Maybe detached. It doesn't haunting might be a good way to describe it. And then when he asks, well, what are you afraid of? That's when the music comes back in. So that's where the emotion restarts, where it's like you're starting to see where she is, where what she's thinking. So I think there's a purposeful reason for not having any music there, because you could just put, like a light string pad or something just as background to continue from one to the other. But no, there's a purposeful decision of not having music, and it's not just that there is dialogue,
Yeah, the music coming in does seem to underscore where the emotion is coming back in. I think Luke's delivery and also the particular line, like it was fear that kept me here. Maybe it's the rhyme of it. It feels like it's a dramatic line read. And it does kind of, to me, feel like Mark Hamill is doing gravitas a little bit. But yeah, overall, it's okay. I find it fine and good. I liked the Luke moments in this movie. Okay, so I'll go back a little bit and keep playing.
She didn't tell me.
So we're getting kind of sweet music underneath.
But I want to go back for a little bit.
Okay.
Myself.
More?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Because you're a Palpatine.
Right here. Da-da.
Yep,
So
for
he has
Palpatine.
the Palpatine, and then that just comes in. So it's not quite on the nose. It's coming close to that, but you give enough for the dialogue to come in your Palpatine, and then there's like a beat, and then that comes in. And I really like the timbre there. You've got what I think is probably a contrabassoon playing in that to give it that low. And it's low, but it's also quiet, and that gives a very menacing feel.
Yeah, it definitely has that double reed sound.
And that's...
Leia knew it too.
She didn't tell me.
And then this is reminiscent of Rey's theme.
Because she saw your spirit. Your heart. Rey. Some things are stronger than blood. Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi.
Force theme.
Your destiny. If you don't face Palpatine, it will mean the end of the Jedi.
Sounds like something else.
There's something my sister would want you to have.
Yeah, any further thoughts about that moment?
I don't think so. One of the things I will say about this scene is that there's a lot of rubato, like the tempo. You have a lot of push-pull to get these dramatic moments in there. The orchestration of that is for a scene, we're usually used to hearing it with like a lower horn register or a bit more dramatic. This is very light in some way. And I think that's a more less typical way to write this Force theme in there.
Yeah, let's hear it again, actually.
Fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. If you don't face Palpatine, it will mean the end of the Jedi.
It's like on...
The war will be lost.
It's probably flutes doubled with...
There's something my sister would want you to have.
Oh, that harp part is so cool. So the sound of that was Rey taking a rock out of a thing, pulling out a thing that looks like a burrito. It's not a burrito, it's a lightsaber, but it does look like a burrito. Unwraps it. The little bit of music that we hear, that's actually the Jedi Steps Variant, which is easy to miss. And I'm sure I've missed it throughout this movie just because it sounds like it could be nothing. It could be nothing, but it could be something. Yeah. Frank Lehman says, two-measure phrase which occurs in TROS 7M4 on Octo and closely resembles a phrase in The Last Jedi 0M1, that's the Q name, probably derived from or a variant of the Jedi Steps theme. Do you remember the Jedi Steps theme?
No.
Okay, let's review that. I really like it. It's from The Last Jedi. And here we go. Anyway, it's mainly the.
Yeah, I'm finding that I know this music, I just don't know what it's called.
Yeah. On the soundtrack, it's on a track called Octo or Octo Island or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so we heard the Jedi Steps variant. We'll go back to hear it again. And then the little harp thing that we hear afterward, little magical harp, comes right after that. Okay, oops. Okay, side of a pile of rocks. Okay, that's the Jedi Steps variant. The harp is how you know that she has opened the lightsaber.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the last night of her training.
And then here we get the flashback.
Leia told me that she had sensed the death of her son at the end of her Jedi.
Did you say something?
Yes, I'd like to go back into Leia's theme. I'm not sure where it is, but you have the first phrase of and they have the second phrase of and I like how it harmonically resolves it. I thought it was very interesting. It's one of the standout moments for me in this cue musically. So I'll see if I can point it out for you.
Okay.
So that's the start of the theme.
Night of her training.
What'd you say?
That's the start of the theme.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay.
There.
Oh, yeah. That part?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, because normally if you look at the full theme, it goes on longer, but he wanted to bring it back to the tonic chord. Mm-hmm. So he just had this harmonization that I thought was really nice.
Was it that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Leia told me that she had sensed the death of her son at the end of her Jedi path.
It goes into the Luke trains Leia theme, actually. Bet Bet you and listeners weren't aware that there was a Luke trains Leia theme. Yes.
No.
Yes, there is. It is just an incidental motif, so not a terribly big one. Let me find it. Okay. Sometimes it's funny how many like incidental motifs there actually are. Okay, Luke trains Leia. Elegant, sentimental string melody used during Rey's training with Leia. First, when she... Oh, sorry, that's Leia trains Rey. But there's also one for Leia trains Rey. Okay, Luke trains Leia is... yeah, these are things I did not know until actually doing this season. Okay. Also, elegant sentimental melody heard during flashback of Leia and Luke in lightsaber combat. One statement heard on soundtrack cut from film. One different statement on film cut from soundtrack. Similar to Leia trains Rey, a few other one-offs. So yeah, it is that part that is... Yeah, we're like in the middle of it right now. But I'll go back so we can hear that again.
Leia told me that she had sensed the death
Right here.
of her son at the
Right
end
there.
of her Jedi path. She surrendered her saber to me and said that one day it would be picked up again by someone who would finish her journey.
I like this chord.
1,000 generations live in you.
I mean, the chords in Luke Trains Leia like almost map onto Leia's theme. Like it feels kind of like an offshoot of it, which would make sense. Also, this would be a good little theme to use for practicing solfege because, the intervals are pretty easy. You just, yeah. Okay. I'll keep
You
playing.
now. But this is your fight. You'll take both sabers to Exegol.
I mean, we have to hear that again. We have to get into the Force theme. I mean, the main theme. Okay.
Since the death of her son at the end of her Jedi path. She surrendered her saber to me and said that one day it would be picked up again by someone who would finish her journey. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight. You'll take both sabers to Exegol.
I can't get there. I don't have the Wayfinder. I destroyed Ren's ship.
Okay, let's stop there for a second. Do you want to hear that on the soundtrack so we can hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's at 3. Sorry, it's very loud. Okay. All right, here we go. It's a very troubled sounding main theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think makes it sound so troubled?
It feels very tentative is probably the emotion I would put to it. But as far as like what makes it feel that way, I think it's, you have a solo flute and it's not in a particularly high register. It's kind of like in the middle to middle low register. So maybe having it be a solo instrument is what makes it, have that sound. Because normally we're used to hearing that with a much larger set of instruments.
Mm-hmm. And then... And then there are some I think the actual pitches being used in the harp. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have we're in the key of F. And the harp's going like... So we have a D flat kind of... I don't think it's clashing. I think it's just like... It's not normally diatonic to... It's not normally in the key of F major. It feels a little bit out of place. Has a dreamlike quality to it. Also just because of the harp itself, just the timbre of the harp, and probably the arpeggiated nature of what the harp is playing. It feels like it is off axis a little bit. Like the main theme, the melody is all there correctly, and then it's just like, but the melody is placed in a strange land. It's like off kilter a little bit.
Having that D flat in there gives you some passing moments of a B flat minor sonority, because you have the F and the B flat that are the standout notes of the melody. So every once in a while, you're just hearing that little minor element.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And the strings are also... Oh, I like that part. Okay, let's go back to the minutes.
About something.
You have everything you need.
Two were made.
So she's going into Ren's Tie Whisper wreckage and gets the Wayfinder out. Do you hear the whispers there?
Yes.
Do you think that counts as Sith whispers? I'm not sure myself. I
don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure because I can't make out what they're saying or like what the rhythm of it is. It kind of sounds like...
Yeah, it does. It doesn't feel like it's part of the music. It feels like it's part of the sound design. So that's why, it's a little unclear what the intent is there.
Right. But it's like probably not this.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's that.
Okay, then I won't count this on the themes then.
But where Luke says, I think you have everything you need. Is that the line? You have this moment that I think is a little like prelude to Yoda's theme that's coming up. Where you just have this major chord, and you just have those intervals like outlining a major triad. And I think it's like a little hint. And then you go into this melodic section, which I think you'll probably have a lot to say about.
Oh, right. And before that, what we're hearing is the friendship theme.
Okay.
Which actually does lend itself. It goes really nicely into Yoda's theme. Yeah.
So that.
Yeah.
Two were made.
It's actually amazing how well it goes into it.
Yeah.
Okay, before we continue with this. Okay, the thing where Rey reaches in to grab the other Wayfinder, I think the shot is funny. Like, okay, I'm going to put some images on screen. Without knowing exactly, like, what parts, like, what... It looks like she's a hacker, basically. Like, she's hooded. And this, like, thing looks like a laptop. I just think it's really funny. Like, and then she grabs something out of it. Yeah. This is the real hacker picture on screen. Yeah. Okay. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. Let's hear that transition again.
Two were made.
It's that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Because we're getting from, I guess that's John Williams' way of modulating from A flat, and then we have to go to E. Yeah. Yeah, that's so an impressive. It's always illustrative to hear how composers tackle their necessary modulations to get to the key that they need to get to. And we need to get to E major because here we're doing the score, at least, is copy pasting from the Empire Strikes Back. So we have to get it back to the key that it was in that spot, and that's in that movie. Yeah, okay, we'll continue listening. So it has been raised. So, shot of Luke with his hand out. He smiles right there. And Rey smiles. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. So it is exactly the same, isn't it? I believe it is. Now, it is not the same recording.
No.
But it is the same part of the score, of the written score. I went back and listened to the Yoda and the Force moment. It's slower. It's faster here than it is in the original trilogy. I don't know if that's... and it surprised me, actually, how much faster it is. I will play it. Let me play it for you. So this will be at 2:16 of Empire Strikes Back. Episode 15. Okay. Three, four, three. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, let's metronome this. So it eventually picks up, but it starts out somewhere in like 70 to 76 range. Mm-hmm. And then here...
I can't do this alone. I need you.
We're starting out 80, going up to 92. Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's a very good moment. Yes, okay. Tell me all your thoughts.
So I have a question for you. Why do you think the tempo is faster in this scene than in The Empire Strikes Back?
I was wondering myself and thinking there are cynical answers and there are probably realistic answers. Probably realistic answer might be just that the scene, the way that the scene was cut, perhaps that's just the time frame it needed to fit into. It could also be that, put it this way, I think when recalling an old theme, I think it either has to be the same speed or faster. I think it can't be slower. I don't think slower is a good option. I think, and I guess the super cynical answer would be like, just everything's got to be faster now than it was in 1980.
It's interesting because in my opinion, I think it is because a general trend towards having things be faster and having different, cuts and edits in films just to tighten things up. I think the general pace of films since The Empire Strikes Back, things are edited a little bit faster. So that's what I would think. So
okay. So that
I
is
know,
my
I
cynical
don't know.
answer.
That's my guess. I don't see it as cynical, honestly.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that would be why. So the editor comes in and cuts it a certain way, and then John Williams has to come in and make the music fit to that cut.
Yeah. Although, because this is such a music-forward part and not a lot is happening, I feel like the amount of time it takes for Luke to raise the X-Wing could probably be fudged. It could probably have some flexibility. It could probably last a little bit longer. But maybe also, since we've seen this thing before, we know what's happening, it makes more sense for us to not drag it out quite as long. Also, it could be because I haven't mapped out the entire part from TROS and ESB, but it could be that the climax, it's faster to start with to make the climax perhaps slowing down more prominent, more noticeable, because I do think it still does slow down quite a bit once we get to that E major 7 chord. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I do think, well, it doesn't actually. Okay, I don't know. I don't know the real answer, but I think it's some combination of all of the above, probably. Mm-hmm. And I do think it shouldn't have been slower than the original version, certainly.
I mean, the scene can be drawn out, but only so much because we still have a very long film. And we've seen, like you said, we've seen this scene before. The scene overall was slower in The Empire Strikes Back. We could draw that out more because it's a bigger emotional moment. This one is now more of a callback to that previous scene, so we don't have to draw it out quite as long because we as the audience know what's going on. Yeah, so we don't, I think it was a good choice to make it go a little bit faster in this movie because, don't want to draw out the thing that we all know is happening. So one of the parts about this Yoda and the Force cue that always strikes me is the little flutes. Yes. They're so... They're just dancing around chromatically above the whole thing. I find that one of a very delightful part of Yoda and the Force. And of course that chord. It's like John Williams is being jazzy here. But it sounds so impactful. It just it's very good. What chord is that?
E major 7.
E major 7. Yeah, that's unusual in this context for sure. But
and I think resolving just on E major wouldn't have hit the same.
Right.
It would have worked. Da-da. But how much better? Da-da.
Is that what key are we in?
E.
At this point, is it E major? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's any particular reason why it would do that other than it just sounds brighter.
Right. Right. I guess I would love to know how John Williams came up, how he completed this cue. Because he's already done Yoda's theme before, so this is Yoda's theme but doing something different. And I'm curious how intentional, how intentionally he applied certain, sonorities, instrumentations, harmonies on this section. Like if he knowingly was like, if he knew like this, we should have a major seventh. We should not just have it end on just the major chord, major triad, but a major seventh. I don't know. I feel like that could have been intentional though.
Yeah, I would think that everything that is done musically is intentional, because if it wasn't, we would just have a copy paste of what happened in the previous film, but we don't have that. So there must have been some intention to say, well, we need to do something different, even if that something is just to make it sound a little bit different, or there might have been some greater intention to actually highlight a certain, like you said, a certain sonority.
Yeah. When you're composing or trying to arrange things and maybe put your own spin on it, are there any techniques or harmonies or things that you find yourself like pulling from? Like if you have like a toolbox of things to try?
Sure. I think any composer or arranger has their particular set of signature sounds or whatever that they pull from. I'm personally likely to use, I like dominant 7 chords. I like minor 7 flat 5 chords. I'm probably not likely to use a major 7th chord.
Interesting.
Some people might use a major 6 chord in place of a major 7th chord, and I'm even less likely to do that. It depends on the arranger. It's all that major chord sound, but there's these slight variations on it. Am I going to use, I like to use a flat 9 in dominant 7 chords, but other people like to use a sharp 9. There's all these different things. It's still the same chord, but just a slight coloration.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was very technical for your listeners.
Yeah, that was. I was like, should I play all the... I feel... What about like not just harmony, but either rhythm or time or instrumentation?
For me personally, instrumentation would be the biggest factor I'd look into for that. It depends on the effect you're going for, but it's all about how the sounds add up to create what the specific total sound is. So like each individual instrument has to be in a certain range or a certain pitch to make that happen. So like if we were doing this, major 7th chord and we just had it, right from the bottom up, E, G sharp, B, D sharp, right? If you scored that with all trumpets, it's going to be a very bright sound. It's probably going to be a little much. But if you, have like a trumpet on the E and the B, and then have a flute on the D sharp, it's going to be softer because you're emphasizing the main chord tones with the brass, and then the flute is just adding that little bit to bring in color. Just enough. Yeah. It's like seasoning in cooking, right? You have your core ingredients, but then you have the seasoning on top of that. It's like, what flavors do you want to dominate or stand out? So like if the flute is like just the salt, you don't want to have everything just be salt, but you don't want everything to be, your base ingredient either. You need to find some balance.
I think that's really, yeah. Okay. So I have this book called The Flavor Bible, and basically you can look up like an ingredient and it tells you like which, like it has a list of other ingredients that go well with that ingredient, and in bold are the ones that go really well. And then it'll be like a short list of ones that definitely don't go well. So like a lot of chefs apparently use this book, and they had chefs weigh in on, assessing each ingredient. So you can look up like thyme or like red wine vinegar or like potatoes. And one of the things it does is it lists whether the ingredient is quiet or loud. And because it does talk about like balancing, like you don't want to balance all loud flavors. And if you're using a loud flavor, you just have to be aware that that's going to be really, that's going to be loud in your dish. So it will be louder than
Right.
like some of the softer ones. It's not just necessarily all equal. So I think that's a good analogy for sure. Like, yeah, some of those, yeah. I'm thinking of like what would be like a recipe where the trumpets are just super loud.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but building a chord, like thinking of it like building a dish, yeah, there's definitely some parallels. Listeners, if you want to hear more discussion about this particular cue, I'll put a link in the show notes to ESB 15, and this is the episode with Father David and Trevor Mowry. Trevor is an oboe player, and he played this on the oboe in that episode. So yeah, you can hear more there. I want to put back this image of the X-wing, like just dripping the X-wing. Okay, I know that you didn't watch Lost, Jeremy. This is why I asked you last night, because as I was reviewing the minutes, I was like, okay, seeing it's like mossy. It's like, does it look ready to fly? I don't know. I don't know. But it reminds me of this part in Lost where they're like in the jungle, but like they find this old car that hasn't run in like decades. And it's just like, it looks just as bad as this X-Wing does here. Yeah, it just reminds me of just like finding really old, probably defunct vehicles, and in movies and in TV somehow still able to work. Which I think is good. I don't want to like have to now add more to the movie by like Rey now has to tinker with it to like fix it. I don't want that either, but it's just, I think it's just funny. Yeah.
I don't know. That might be an interesting scene, at least a little.
Well, I feel we already got Rey kind of tinkering in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So we know she can do it, and Chewie certainly can do it. So we'll just chalk this up to the Force, or a very specially designed X-Wing. Luke didn't know how lucky he was. Anyway, do you have any more thoughts about these minutes?
I really liked, I think you called it the friendship theme. Is that the one? That was the other big standout moment in this cue for me, because it's just such a nice melodic line. It's very simple, but very effective.
Yeah, the friendship theme is one of my favorite themes in this movie. I'm going to play, well, first I'll put it back. I'll put a screenshot so you can see it in Frank Lehman's catalog, and then I'll play the instance that it appears in first. Anyway, it is one of two thematic components of the Rise of Skywalker concert arrangement, a long-breathed and songful representation of the bond between Rey, Finn, and Poe specifically, and Fellowship generally. Perhaps the most sentimental of all Star Wars themes, resonates with multiple other leitmotifs, and in conjunction with Victory, has a summative, retrospective quality. And then Victory is the yeah, that's like the track on the soundtrack, Rise of Skywalker. The friendship theme, I think, is it's very earnest, and I like that about it.
Yeah, could you put the music back up?
Yeah.
I want to discuss one element of this, because this is the first time I'm seeing it with the harmony. So if we look at the third measure, we have the melody, right? And it's on a C major chord. And the melody generally goes up, da, 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 da.
Yep.
But the harmony goes down, right?
Yeah.
And then...
yeah. So you're going from C to B minor.
B minor, right?
Yeah.
Which is an unusual chord change if you think about from, a traditional standpoint. But if you just see it as like the chord moving down a half step, right? But then that thematic element repeats, but now the interval is larger. Da 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 da. And the chord still goes down. So that I think that gives a sense of yearning because the melody is going up, but the chord is going down.
Yeah.
So I just thought that interesting about this theme.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. When Dominic Sewell was on this season, we talked about the friendship theme, and I'll put on screen. He was talking about how like there's also a symmetry to it, like the da-da-da, and then da-da falls, and then it goes up, da-da-da-da, and then it falls, da-da,
Right.
and then da-da-da-da, and so I think this is what you've mentioned with it now, with it going from the chord falling while the melody is rising. The C to B is also a really good point. Yeah, so that would be... Somehow I changed my piano to a different sound, so I'm sorry. Sounds like very 80s. Sorry, let's try it again. I don't know. I don't know what happened. B minor. Sorry. Oh my God. Okay, forget that last chord. But what? How did? Okay, whatever. I'll deal with that later. Yeah.
It's interesting the measures that you've circled red, right? You talk about the interval is going down, like it's going down a fifth, but then it's going down a fourth, then it's going down a third, so the intervals are getting smaller. Meanwhile, the actual motif is actually going up, so you have this contrast between the intervals getting smaller and the motif getting... It's just, there's a lot going on here as terms of like good melodic construction.
Totally. Yep. I couldn't agree more. It's definitely a good one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anything else about these minutes?
No, I think we covered everything that I want to discuss. Yeah.
Is there anything else from the film that, including the soundtrack or sound design, that stands out to you? Or like your experience seeing it in the theater for the first time? Do you remember anything?
So I've only seen this film once, and I have a lot that I could say about the film. Overall, there were a couple of visual aspects of the film that I liked, but for the most part, I was not very invested in this film. It just did not resonate or appeal with me. So...
Did you see it in theaters like the day it came out?
Yes. Probably the weekend it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Did you listen to Star Wars Minutes season?
Of course, I've listened to everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been a while since their season ended, and I'm curious if any guests stood out to you, like if any takes or conversations from it resonated with you.
Not that I can remember offhand.
Yeah, no, it's
like
been so long ago.
It's been years
It's been over
now.
a year. No, it's been like 1 year since I finished.
One year
I'm not
since
that behind.
Yeah, 1 year since the Star Wars Minute, but it's been like 5 years since this film.
That's true. That's very true.
So.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Okay, so the themes from the set of minutes were Pose theme, March of the Resistance A section, Rey's A theme, Force theme, Jedi Steps Variant, Leia, Luke trains Leia, the main theme A section. Okay, crossing this off because Jeremy said no. Sith Whispers is not, it doesn't count. But we do have Friendship and we have Yoda. And then where are we in the soundtrack? This is OST track 6, Destiny of a Jedi. I think that's about it. Are you ready to answer the Star Wars Music Minute questionnaire for the 4th time?
For the fourth time. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Okay. I'll tell you your old answers after you give the new answer.
Okay.
Okay. In exactly 3 words, what does Star Wars sound like?
Brass, adventure, I'll go with heroic.
Okay, cool. You're old. Okay. For Empire Strikes Back season, you said space, brass, droids. For Solo: A Star Wars Story, you said big octatonic brass. We have a theme here.
So brass is the theme. I mean, that's such a characteristic of the Star Wars scores in general. So you start the movie with a big brass fanfare, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah. And then A New Hope, you said opera without words. So it was a more like, different kind of answer. But yeah, brass is definitely a through line. Okay. What is something related to Star Wars music or sound that you want to learn more about?
Something related that I want to learn more about. I think I've said this before, but getting into like the details of the weeds, things like the instrumental decisions, the orchestration, some of these, like you were talking about, the flute fills, why that particular sound, all of these really technical details to make it just give it that individual specific sound for this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Previously, you said the creation of the sound effects / sound design, like specifically, can I recreate some of these sounds on my ARP 2600? Which you have one of those? I forgot. Did you?
No, I just have a virtual software synthesizer in the computer. I tried that, and I think we did that on a previous episode, and we got mixed results.
And then you also said the score for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then you said musical / orchestrational filler and sound effects Foley. Okay. And finally, what is a score? You can give multiple, or soundtrack that you're fond of besides anything Star Wars.
There was something that I was thinking about recently. Well, right now I'm going to have to go with Only Murders in the Building. I think the theme for that is really unique and original. I was watching the composer talk about that and where he got his source of inspiration and how he put that together. It's a very fascinating way to approach it. The theme it's basically like 1 or 2 themes used throughout the entire show, but it's pretty effectively used. Another soundtrack that I may have mentioned before, but I think is very unique, is Birdman.
Oh, I don't think you've mentioned that actually.
Birdman is unique. Yeah, go ahead.
Who composed that?
I think it's Gustavo Santaolalla.
Oh, okay. I've never heard. Is it a movie or a show?
It's a movie.
When did it come out? 2014? Is that the one?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay. Birdman, stylized as Birdman, capitalized, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. Okay, Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Okay, it's Antonio Sanchez.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. That's one that I'll definitely have to check out.
It's a unique score because it's almost exclusively percussion.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Oh, that is cool.
So, and the reason I was thinking of that recently is one of my friends was just hired to score a film, and he didn't know where to start, so I gave him a bunch of tracks they could use as temp music, and that was one of the ones that came up because it was unique. He decided that direction didn't work for the film he was scoring in, but I still think it's something that a composer should be familiar with if they're trying to think of different ways to score a scene or a film.
I'm definitely going to check that one out. And then Only Murders in the Building is the TV series composed by Siddhartha Khosla, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Nice. Previously, you said The Matrix, Bob's Burgers, Star Trek by Jerry Goldsmith, Wall-E, and North by Northwest, Loki, and Catch Me If You Can by John Williams.
Yeah,
it's
those
a
are
good
all
list.
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, where can people find you online, Jeremy? Do you have any music posted anywhere?
I'm sure I have a SoundCloud account. I don't know if I've updated anything recently, but yeah, I have a SoundCloud account. I'm very easy to find. I also just started a Substack. So you can find me there.
Cool. I'll put all the links in the show notes.
I'm thinking of writing up this show and putting that as the next post.
Writing up this show?
Writing up this episode, my notes from this episode. So
I'm like, what show could you be talking about? I don't
Your
know.
show.
I don't know a show. Nice. Yeah, definitely let me know if you do that.
all right.
Listeners, you can find me in various places online. The links will be in the show notes. And I haven't mentioned this in a while, and so I haven't been getting emails like I used to in previous seasons, but the door is always open if you have a longer question that can't be expressed, that you feel like you can't express in a YouTube comment or like a tweet or something. One, you can always ask me on Discord if you're in my Discord server, link in the show notes for that. But you could always also send me an email if that feels, if you feel like the format is easier for you. And so the email is podcast@StarWarsMusicMinute.com. And with that, next week, I will be back to talk about minutes 96 through 100 of The Rise of Skywalker. May the Force be with you. Talk to you next week on Star Wars Music Minute.